Hello ladies and gentlemen, it's Tuesday, January 2nd, 2013. Welcome back to Day 9 Daily number 535, Part 2, where we learn to be a better gamer. And I eat some dinner in breaks. Therefore, I will drink out of my awesome USC Fight On mug. Yeah, USC score points in sports ball. Oh, sports ball is my favorite points game. Seriously. I watch video games. Let's talk a little bit about Part 1 briefly. We did this overview of the structure of Zerg vs. Terran from the Terran point of view, most typically. We see Terran players doing a little poking, pulling back, powering up, and trying to crush the opponent, or try to crush the Zerg later. Or we end up seeing the Pult style, which is to be aggressive early. We've set the Pult style aside, and now we're looking at this game where MVP is doing the classic pullback and turtle. Doing a little bit of poking with things like this Banshee that's causing my mini-map to erupt with red explosions. Meanwhile, we're seeing MVP is getting ready to take himself up an expansion. And Stephano has weirdly, with almost no information, just gone straight Roach Hydra, powering drones, building this about as early as he can. Building this hatchery not quite as early as he can. And this is where we're going to step into action. What we're seeing out of this Banshee is why players like opening up with the Banshee. It allows them to force roaches back and to deny those sorts of pushes. But weirdly, we have this Hydralisk Den about to pop up from Stephano. He is getting these 2-2 upgrades right away. And we're just going to briefly note that Stephano scouted the opponent before starting this level 2 missile upgrade. And that's going to come back in Part 3. But for now, I just want to note it so we can reference back. Everything else Stephano's doing is pretty damn easy. Hydralisk Den. How many roaches do we have? 11. We built these all at the start of the game, right? Right when this roach warren finished, we built these 3. Right as we were getting ready to move out to our 3rd, we built a couple more. And other than that, it's been all drones. And per usual, we're actually just going to be building up a bunch of Hydralisks and drones. Hydras and drones, Hydras and drones. You know, kind of like if you were going Ling and Fester, you'd be going Infestors and drones, Infestors and drones, Infestors and drones, and that sort of thing. Well, sweet, here, we end up doing the Hydralisk and drone, and per usual, we back it up just by cranking out a bunch of roaches. Now, look at this force. This is not an intimidating force. However, there's a key thing that's going on right here that you don't actually end up seeing out of other players. This force has a way to directly kill off Banshees. Almost always, the Zerg player is going to be in the 12 minute in a number of situations. Actually, a very small number of situations. He will either have no layer tech yet, he will have no Infestors out, or he'll be going for Mutalisks. If he's going for Mutalisks, you as the Terran player still have plenty of time to like build turrets and build a Thor, and then you're fine. If he's going for really fast Mutalisks and his Mutalisks are out, that's the only thing he has, is basically Mutas. It's very easy to read as Terran, and you just get up some anti-air, and you have to pull back and turtle a little bit, which is normal. The Terran player is intending on turtling. At this point in time, every other big frontal assault that's reasonable has no anti-air. Lings with Banelings and Speed Roaches, maybe the Speed Roach, Speed Baneling bust. That's a common one, but we have Banshees as Terran. We're fine. MVP is not fine here because of the Hydralisks. This is a freaking weird timing that literally is going to catch MVP completely off guard. He ends up losing 1, not 2, because Hydralisks are absolutely... This is like, I have a faster mile time than the Hydralisk. And I do not have a fast mile time. Is it clear? Is it clear that I don't... Can I just say that I don't have a fast mile time and you'll believe me? Is that fair enough? They're slow. However, holy crap, look at MVP. He is extremely dry on defense in this situation. In fact, he has almost nothing to be able to deal with this exact kind of push. 12-minute timing attack with Roach Hydra, reinforced with Roach. Looks a lot like Zerg vs. Protoss, to be frank. And somehow we've managed to break through that. Now, this is one of these mysterious things where what I did for you was I showed you just the way MVP opened in part 1, and then we started over and we watched the way Stephano opened just from Stephano's point of view, and Stephano just didn't really look for that much, and didn't really see that much, and didn't really do that much. But that's why we have ourselves a damn motherfucking graph, ladies and gentlemen. Remember, this period right here, this period is when Terran is chilling down, tuning down. And what are most Zerg players doing? They're finishing powering up, and they're building some infestors. This defense that we're going to see out of MVP, this defense is designed to deal with Lings, soon enough Mutalisks, and Roaches. Why Roaches? Because we have some Banshees out. How many Banshees? Well, we have 2 Banshees. That's fine. This should be able to hold off pretty much any Roach play, and we even are building Marauders. Yeah! This should, by general measure, be able to hold off everything, except Hydralisk throws a total wrench in this. What I'm actually going to do is I'm going to come back to this very typical point in time, and in fact show you that MVP is not screwing up by any chance. Just to throw that out of the way. There we see the command center. God, those Marines are freaking loud. I'm going to disable that sound. We see a second factory pop up. Look at this. We even have the factory move right on over. Come on, lift up. It's going to build a siege tank right away. Doom, doom, doom. We have 1 siege tank out. We're even getting the Marauders with concussive shell. So there's our first siege tank that we just got out. And then we just finished siege mode. And the attack comes about 30 seconds after tank number 2 arrives. And now I'll put sound back on. Sweet, right? Now, I will note, a lot of the reason that this is working is that this is a small map. Functionally, we have a bigger opportunity to deal damage because we have a shorter walk path. And again, Hydralisks are emergency slow. Like, 10-year-old Sean, if you broke his leg and then attached coal to his ankles and just made him run amok, I would still beat a Hydralisk. But because it's Ohana, which is again the Korean word for Hydralisk, the Hydras work very well on this map. So yeah, really simple timing window, really clear timing window, and it busts right on me. Now, what we're also going to see out of this is opportunity to expand at the back. 2-2 coming out. This is largely a play to exploit the third base, because Terran players will be trying to get super overeager with this third command center. And be super... God, StarCraft is loud today. It's going to be super overeager on all the defending. You know, having 2 tanks to be able to defend a huge spread. MVP just gets a couple more tanks and instantly the aggression is shut down. But that's fine. Now, I want to come back to a theory standpoint. And again, theory doesn't mean stuff that hasn't been proven yet. A theory is just a series of explanations as to why. Some of the general theory behind the Zerg vs. Terran matchup is that the Zerg player wants to be getting Hive up. Broodlord Infestor is a great combo, so I will use Ling Infestor in the mid game. So that way, when I get to, what am I talking about? Where on earth did the rest of my train of thought go? Oh yeah, I have Ling Infestor in the mid game, so that way when I get up my Broodlords, not only do I have this nice Broodlord composition with the Infestors, but also I stayed alive, right? I like to call the Infestor a mid game stepping stone. So that way you use the Infestors to step up to the Broodlords, or I should say specifically to step up to Hive Tech. You can go Ultralisk just fine. In this circumstance, the Roach Hydra composition also functions as a stepping stone to get up to the Hive Tech. A player's largely abandoned Roach Hydra mid-games to go for Hive because Infestor Broodlord is a lot stronger than Roach Hydra Broodlord, in the opinion of many players. So with this Hive coming up, I almost feel like this is like a vestigial hive. We're not actually gonna use this. We're not poised to use this in this position. I really think that the best use of this is to go for 3-3 and probably not to go for Broodlords in this moment. Why? Because we now have upgrades for our layer tech units. We have tons of upgrades for Roach Hydra. We have tons of momentum to be able to continue to apply. I don't want to stop attacking and build a frickin' spire that takes 100 seconds. I want to continue attacking. So I think that with the Hive, this is almost an optical illusion. We're not really rushing for Hive tech. We're kind of rushing for 3-3 so we can have super strong layer tech. Because I want you to know, economically, we're not really ready to do a Hive transition. And positionally, Broodlords aren't going to benefit us here. We want to continue to make sure that we can just keep him out of his third and hunt down any attack that comes out. Zoom, zoom, zoom. See you later. Getting destructored. Getting destructored. Getting destructored. So yeah, this is it just me or are the sound effects loud? I keep turning them down more and more. Maybe it's because I've developed sensitive ears over winter break from doing things like reading books. But I want to emphasize, screw it, we're turning the sound off. I want to emphasize that this kind of push is exactly the reason why we didn't really want to go Broodlords before. Because we want to have the ability to do this, to bust in, get way on the losing end. Like before this battle began, I'll actually come to here. You'll see that MVP was slightly more on the losing side because we killed off some workers and we really busted in there. But like in this engagement, Zerg ends up getting the far worse end of the deal. But we're fine with that as Zerg. We're fine hurling away huge amounts of units, getting bad exchanges because not only can we win the game sometimes, but we're almost certainly guaranteed to kill off this expansion. And in the meantime, in production, we see that still, keeping up the aggression, going for adrenal glands. This was an Ultralisk Cavern that was building. Stephano didn't intentionally cancel the Ultralisk Cavern, but in fact, cool factoid. In StarCraft 2, if a game ends and a player leaves, all his buildings get canceled. So for instance, there's GG and Stephano leaves the game, so this gets canceled. But yeah, keeping up the aggression. Sweet. We now have seen a neat example of destroying a Terran player with relative ease using Roach Hydralisk. What we're going to take a look at now is a game from the Lone Star Clash 2, where Stephano did end up winning, and this is one of the first moments where he showcased the strategy, and a lot of people saw it. I think there were a couple instances that he did it earlier, but I don't remember. We're going to see a completely different play out of the Terran. And if we come back to this undeniably awesome graph of Terran versus Zerg, what we're going to be looking at now is, again, this timing window that we're working with as Zerg is right around in here. And we're going to be looking at this period right here, where the Terran starts to get aggressive and has to pull back. We're going to be looking at a Pult style of gameplay. Doink. So, let's come on back. Ah, my screen! Ah! Alright, cool. Coming back. They have themselves a fun conversation, deflecting blame to designers or other conditions like solar wind as to why games are lost has nothing to do with decisions made within the game. But what are we going to do at the first segment of this game? We're going to look at what Ganji's doing, and we're going to see this opening that he does, and that it's quite aggressive. A lot of players like to go for an early third command center. Ganji ain't going to do none of that. Ganji is going to come right out the gate building lots of units, Marines, Marauders, getting a starport up, going for really fast medevacs, and doing this big ol' push. It's not exactly what Pult does, but still, I'd like you to note that by and large, Terran players are passive. Whoa, whoa, there we go. Terran players like to be pretty passive with Marines at the start of the game if they're doing this style. But if they're doing the green line style where they attack, that's what we're looking at right now. Big aggression. And again, I totally want to emphasize, you see my hump? You see my hump, my hump? My hump right here, the 9-minute mark is right around here, corresponding to this timing attack. All timing attacks that involve the Terran player going expand, get some Hellions, and get ready for a huge push, all happen around 9, 10, 10:30, something like that. So, yeah, let's come on back to the game. Yeah. Dude, screw this. I'm just turning this down. I want the sound volume up. 9% seems reasonable, and I don't want to start yelling. I want to just keep it normal. I just want to note that Ganji is trying to do poking and prodding as best he can, getting double upgrades to set himself up for later. Continuing to be as aggressive as possible, maybe doing drops. Oh, what's this? We're getting close to having combat shield done. A drop at the top side. Oh, trying to do aggression on all fronts. Again, I want to note this hump, this hump. What have we accomplished thus far? What we've accomplished is we have seen that Ganji is doing a distinctly different category of Zerg versus Terran. Or, excuse me, Terran versus Zerg. The MVP game where we saw him go Hellion Banshee into mech, it will wind up looking the same way if MVP went Hellion Banshee into Marine Tank. There's still that solid window there where we can attack. So let's go ahead and look at things from Stephano's point of view by selecting that. And seeing that, yeah, again, Stephano actually screwed up and lost 3 workers early on. But we're still seeing around the 6-minute mark getting roaches. Why are we building this here? Because his first Hellions pop out at around 6 minutes. So we want to make sure that we know that. There's the 2 evolution chambers coming up. How many roaches do we make? Like 2, 3, 4, something like that. See, look at them. Popping out just in time. Again, if you want the timing of this, rewind the video. It's around 5:30 when this roach warren goes down. Getting them early ups, spreading all them creepy creeps, getting up 4 gases before the layer. Around 8 minutes, getting a spore crawler. Why? Because around 8 minutes is when banshees end up coming up. See how similar this is? See how we're doing this completely and totally in the dark, no overthinking? Stephano smartly moving this roach out. Why? Because we haven't seen any Hellions. And around 8 minutes is when we see banshees. Something's up. Da-da-da-da. Feel free to morph that into an overseer and just check. I would. Yeah, so I see this and I'm like, oh, cool. Oh, one thing I forgot to note. Right around the time we're taking a third, totally without any information, we just build a wave of roaches. We did this last game, we're doing it this game. Why? Because Hellion Banshee or Marine Marauder Medevac, roaches are going to be good against that. All the same. And again, we still have this opportunity to see stuff here. Killing off some of these things, but keep in mind, roaches are stupid good against Marines. It actually seems unfair how good the roach is against the Marine. Yeah. When do we build the Hydralisk Den? Well, if Day 9 can find it, he'll tell you where it... I found it. Oh no, here it is. I did my job. This Hydralisk Den, built just straight, as fast as we humanly possibly could. And we know what he's doing. We don't necessarily need to scout, because seeing this is some pretty good information. Pretty reliable that we know that he went barracks starport, because we see barracks units and 2 medevacs. But meanwhile, back in the Stephano camp, we're going to see not a timing attack come up right away. Stephano needs to hold on. Stephano needs to make sure that nothing bad happens. He's still going to be making drones. He's going to be doing this drone Hydralisk combination. See, here's the attempted medevac drop. Cool, we deal with that. Hydralisk drone until we can get to our money 75 count. Hydralisk drone. Hydralisk drone, kind of hanging out. Where is our infestation pit? Cool. This, by the standard measure of Zerg vs. Terran, would be considered a late infestation pit. But we're not doing anything normal. We're actually going for frickin' Hydra Roach. holding control of things, seeing this sort of stuff. And this is just the money moment. We've been building up a big Roach Hydra army. Just building it, building it, building it. And this is why we do it. This is why we fight with Roach Hydralists. Hydralists just ripping down the medevacs. It's looking very ugly. I want you just to pretend for a moment that this is Heart of the Swarm and Hydralists can move that fast off creep. Yeah. So rather than an 11 or 12 minute attack, we do an 11 or 12 minute defense until we get an edge, and then we swing it on in. Same good old logic. Taking it out. Yes. Seems pretty cool, right? Why is it looking this way for Ganji? Because almost every single Terran player in the universe relies on this framework. Almost all Terran strategies are built around the idea that Zerg's trying to power, which indeed Stephano was trying to do. He was trying to power during all this period. However, this assumption that the Zerg player is going for infestors to defend himself is starting to be just freaking wrong. It's starting to actually just be wrong in this case. So, right in this period of time where, I'm going to pull this off. In this window, this is where Ganji, or players like Pult, this is when they would start to be like, alright, I'm going to pull back, I'm going to take my third, and then I'm going to ramp back up with another attack, maybe with 1-1 upgrades. Right here is where this attack is coming in. And if you look, it's a really painful moment because just a few minutes ago, we had these barracks finish up. Just a few minutes ago were we actually able to start the reactors. So in fact, these buildings are really the only ones that have been constantly producing units. Even these barracks 4 and 5, they haven't been doing anything, they haven't been doing anything. Still nothing, still nothing, still nothing. As a result, this attack is hitting right before these other barracks can really kick into high gear. So sweet. In part 3, we just wrapped up part 2, where we got to saw the conclusion to that initial game, and we saw how vulnerable a lot of the Terran players will be. In this game, we saw that not only do we have a really easy defense against early pressures, but also we can crush it and then instantly counterswing, and the Terran is in the same old problematic situation. When we come back into part 3, we're going to see how Stephano wraps this up, and sort of how he performs in a situation where he didn't get a really easy win like in the last game. How Stephano sort of plays this off. And we're going to see yet again that this Roach Hydra mid-game is sort of a stepping stone mid-game. You won't get your hive tech stuff up quite as fast, but we still have a lot of flexibility. And we'll answer the age-old question, what if these attacks can't work at all? We'll be back in 2 minutes. Yeah!